action. Drop the clutch, pedal to the floor. Turn that giddy bird into a lion's roar. Dream machine, racing queen. I'll take you wherever you wanna go. Let's blow this town, break the speed of sound. Tonight we own the road. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Red on the highway, blue lights flashing behind me. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart
What's going on, guys? This is your AEW Dynamite review for Wednesday, September 13, 2023. I am Solomonster. Next week, AEW is back in New York City. They are back at Arthur Ashe Stadium for Grand Slam, and that is what tonight's show clearly was all about pushing. It was about pushing Grand Slam next week, including the main event tonight, which was the finals of the Grand Slam Eliminator tournament. The winner would go on to challenge MJF next Wednesday for the AEW World Championship. Would it be Samoa Joe? Would it be Roderick Strong? They were the only two possible options in this tournament. Both of them have stories that are ongoing right now with Adam Cole and MJF. And in the end, it was Samoa Joe, booked like an absolute stone-cold killer. Going over in the main event, he will now challenge for the AEW World title next Wednesday, and I will tell you that I, for one, would not mind if they wanted to do a title change and put the AEW World title on Samoa Joe next week. I don't think that's what Tony Khan has in mind, but Joe has just been on an absolute tear. In the work he's been putting in recently, I would not mind at all. In fact, if it were up to me, I would do the title change next week. I would put the belt on Joe. Hey, even if it's only for 11 days and MJF gets it back at Wrestle Dream, just to shake things up a little bit, I wouldn't mind that at all. But when this show was over, MJF was not in the building. He was not on the show tonight. Adam Cole was. And we ended up with Adam Cole being choked out by Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe said that he was going to make MJF pay. He was going to take everything from him. And so what he did tonight is he tried to take his tag team partner away from him, as I am attempting here to sop up my little mess here. Spilled a drink. So I got so excited about Samoa Joe's win here on this show that I accidentally knocked my glass over. And so now I am attempting to clean up the mess that I have made here. All right, I think we're good. I don't want things to start short-circuiting on me, though. That would be bad. That's just it's the effect that pro wrestling has on me. It gets me very excited. What can I say? But yes, Joe and MJF is our main event for next week. And really, the entire Grand Slam card for next Wednesday is fantastic. You look at that card on paper, it's a very strong pay-per-view caliber show. We have Joe and MJF for the AEW World title. We have Rey Fenix challenging Jon Moxley for the International Championship, which, of course, they did the injury angle prior to Wembley Stadium with Rey Fenix, and now he wants revenge. And we know that, you put Rey Fenix in the ring, you're going to get madness every time. We have Claudio and Eddie Kingston. Now, I wasn't sure if they were going to save this for Rampage and do Rampage Grand Slam next Friday. That would have been terrible. To do Claudio and Eddie Kingston champion against champion, title for title, you do that on the live show. You don't do it on the tape show. Thankfully, they are doing it on the live Dynamite next Wednesday. So we're going to get it in New York City. Eddie Kingston may become the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion next week. But I am digging this card. They also took a little bit of time tonight to build to some matches on Wrestle Dream, which is their next pay-per-view coming up on October 1st in Seattle. We got the official announcement tonight that it will be Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page going one-on-one at Wrestle Dream. They did a tease for a Konosuke Takeshita match with Kota Ibushi. And all but told us it will be taking place at Wrestle Dream. That's in addition to the Bryan Danielson-Zack Sabre Jr. match that has already been announced. So Wrestle Dream shaping up to be a pretty strong card as well. But maybe the best part of the entire show was MJF in a taped segment from last week giving us some Steiner math. If you were a fan of the Scott Steiner math promo on Samoa Joe from many years ago in TNA, then you are in luck. This was the show for you. I enjoyed the show. I thought that as far as really pushing Grand Slam next week, I thought it did a good job. There were some good matches on the show. I had an issue with some other things, which we'll get into, including the women's match. But on the whole, I think they did a good job of promoting the bigger show for next week. I enjoyed the show closing angle. We'll get into that and everything else. Again, this is your Dynamite review. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button as well. If you would be so kind, Super Chats are open. We've got some new ones. There is a brand new $15 one as well. So you can find those in the description down below. We'll hang out later and read whatever may or may not come in. Dynamite was in Cincinnati tonight. And if you are in the know, you know that Jon Moxley is from Cincinnati. So they opened the show with the hometown boy, Jon Moxley, coming out first to defend his AEW International Championship against Big Bill, who had Ricky Starks in his corner. Lucky wants to know, will I review Impact 1000 on the podcast? No, I have no plans to do so. So Taz said that Jon Moxley and Big Bill, they were friends who lived together many years ago, once upon a time. They used to be, they were roomies back in the day. Bill got the better of Moxley early on. He booted him out to ringside. Starks worked in a cheap shot at ringside because Ricky Starks was in the corner of Big Bill. So he got a cheap shot in while the referee was distracted. When they came back from commercial, Moxley was a bloody mess. I mean, now look, I understand that they are in Moxley's hometown. I get it. And of course, he wants to bleed in his hometown. It was completely unnecessary. There was no reason. I mean, he wasn't just bleeding. Like, his entire face was covered in blood. After the first commercial break, this was totally unnecessary. I know it's Jon Moxley, but totally unnecessary in this match. Moxley superplexed Bill. He fired up, ended up walking right into a boss man slam. Moxley responded with a cutter, and Bill exited to the floor. Moxley went up top. Starks, though, tripped him up, and Moxley got crotched on the top rope. Bill hit Moxley with a big boot, and he got a near fall out of it. Bryan Danielson had seen enough. So Bryan Danielson comes running out from the back. He charges down to the ring. He attacks Starks from behind. Moxley, meanwhile, rolls up Big Bill, who's distracted by all this. He rolls him up for a 2 count. Starks sent Danielson into the ring steps. Bill chokeslammed Moxley. He got a close near fall out of that. And even though Bill was on offense, Moxley caught him in a triangle. I think Bill leaned over. I think he leaned down. And Moxley grabbed him in a triangle. He would not let go. He tried to fight out of it. Starks is outside the ring. He's trying to claw his way back in. Danielson's holding him back. And Starks is begging Bill, don't do it. Don't tap out. Don't do it. But in the end, Big Bill had no choice. He tapped out. And Jon Moxley retains his championship. After the match, Bill and Starks, almost said Bill and Ted, Bill and Starks, they attacked Moxley and Danielson together. Here comes Claudio Castagnoli, the other member of the Blackpool Combat Club. No Wheeler Yuta on this show. He got in the ring. He powers Bill up onto his shoulders, which is nothing for him. I mean, we've seen this guy deliver freakish feats of strength before. I mean, the guy body slammed the Big Show out of the fucking ring at the Andre Battle Royal, for crying out loud. So he powers him up onto his shoulders. Bill wiggles free, and he lands on the apron. So Claudio gets goozled. He breaks free, delivers a European uppercut. Bill goes backwards, but he holds onto the top rope. He does not fall. In the ring, Claudio and Danielson, they're squaring up. They're standing ready for Bill if he gets back in the ring. Ricky talks him out of it. He drops down to the floor, and they left together. So they are keeping Ricky Starks heel. If there was any doubt about what they were going to be doing with him now that CM Punk is gone, they are keeping him heel. I thought maybe they would go in a different direction. Maybe they would turn him back babyface and make him one of the top faces on Collision For now, anyway, he's still a heel. But he is still working, at least temporarily. He's still working with Bryan Danielson. So that's obviously not such a bad thing. Otherwise, I thought it was a decent opener. You know, Bill has looked good in recent outings. The matches that I've seen him in, we don't get to see him in a lot of singles matches on Dynamite. But he's an impressive guy. You know, he got himself back in shape. Obviously, he had fallen on tough times. Got himself back in shape. He is one of the physically more imposing people that they have on their roster. This is not a roster that is filled with people that look like Big Bill. You have people like Luchasaurus and Brian Cage and others who, you know, are big in some way. Cage is not even tall so much. He's obviously very muscular. But there aren't too many people who look like Bill, which I think presents a problem for them because I think in many ways they almost don't really know what to do with him. He's pretty much been stuck in these groups and these teams for so long. So now they have him paired up with Ricky Starks, and that's fine for now, but you know that's not going to last. So temporarily, that's okay. But in the long term, it just doesn't feel like they have any real plans for him. But I thought it was a decent opener. So we go to Mrs. Moxley in the back. She was there to interview Roderick Strong, who was accompanied by the Kingdom, Mike Bennett, Matt Taven. Adam Cole interrupted and told Roddy, look, you wrestling Samoa Joe tonight with your neck the way it is, this is a bad idea. Tried to talk him out of it. Strong said, oh, now you care about my neck health. All of a sudden, you care. And he said that he would beat Joe and he would go on to become the AEW World Champion because I am a wrestling legend. Did not work out too well for him. Tony Schiavone was in the ring to introduce Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita. Now, the painting from last week, if you remember, they had a backstage segment on the show last week. There was a painting that was hidden on an easel. And Callis said that he would wait a week, and the painting would reveal to us who their next target was going to be. So the painting was already in the ring. It was on the easel. It was covered up. Callis took the microphone away from Schiavone right away and said, we just beat Kenny Omega twice in 1 week. And he demanded respect. Callis said that he's learned a lot about Japanese culture. He's learned that when you are the top guy in a promotion, they call you the ace. So I started to think, wait a minute. We know there's going to be some New Japan talent on this Wrestle Dream show. We already have one. As soon as he said ace, I said, wait a minute. Are they doing Tanahashi and Takeshita? Because that's not really the match that I wanted to see. But then I realized Tanahashi's already booked that day, as most of the New Japan stars are. Most of the New Japan stars are already booked. Okada, Sanada, Tanahashi, Shingo. So that's not where he was going with this. But he said he's learned a lot about Japanese culture. And he's learned to do the dance. What's left of my drink here? Isn't much. We're having a party here on the screen. Where Barry Horowitz at? Where is he? Man, this is a mess. I really emptied this mug, didn't I? Holy shit. What a klutz. Anyway, ABK, holy shit, ABK just came in with a $205 super chat. Not to be overshadowed by my mug. ABK with the $200 bomb.
It's ABK. Always be killing.
I give praise to ABK. He says, I have been watching Wrestler on Netflix, a show about OVW. Good documentary. That is true. There's a brand new show on Netflix if you want to check it out. It's basically like a reality. I think it's like a reality series following modern day OVW. Al Snow appears to be the main character because I think he owns it, or he's the head trainer there. So I haven't watched any of it yet. I think it just came out. It might have just come out today. But holy shit, ABK, our MVP, our resident MVP, coming in the clutch. It was quiet. It's been a quiet week. It was a quiet night on Monday. It feels kind of quiet tonight. I feel like we're kind of hungover from all those big shows last week. We had All In, then we had All Out, Payback. Now it feels like things have calmed down a little bit. Then we have Grand Slam. Things pick up again a little bit. ABK, thank you very much. So he said, he's talking about when you are the best in Japan, they call you the ace, as I was saying. And he says there's been a lot of aces. Been a lot of top guys in different promotions call themselves the ace. He goes, Takeshita is better than all of them. And he ran through a bunch of names, including Okada, and he mentioned Inoki. He mentioned Antonio Inoki. He says, when you beat Kenny Omega, they call you the ace. When you beat him twice in 7 days, they call you the alpha. He pointed to the big screen and they had the alpha on there. Then I started to worry about Chris Jericho. Because when they did the Jericho-Kenny Omega match at Wrestle Kingdom, I guess it would have been 5 years ago, it was Omega and the alpha. And I said, okay, are we getting Jericho and Takeshita? Like, where is this going here? They had me fooled a couple of different times here. He says, henceforth, Takeshita will be referred to as the alpha. He says he is a real alpha, not a fake one like Chris Jericho. So then they shot off streamers all over the ring. Callis tells Kenny that beating him twice wasn't enough. They broke his body. Now they're going to break his heart. Callis removes the cover from the painting, and it is the former IWGP heavyweight champion, Kota Ibushi. And in the painting, we see Callis, we see Takeshita, and it's an image of the two of them standing over Ibushi, who's in his wrestling gear, and he's kneeling down on his knees, looking up, kind of cowering underneath a sword that Takeshita is holding above his head. Callis says that while they destroy Ibushi, Omega will be at home watching like the pathetic cuck that he is. Yes, he called this man a cuck. They didn't say why Kenny Omega would be sitting at home. Is there some sort of injury that they mentioned somewhere along the way that I'm not aware of? Why wouldn't Omega be there? Where's he been since All Out? So he called him a pathetic cuck, and then he pulled out a screwdriver. He stabbed the screwdriver into the image of Ibushi in the painting and left it there. He went over to a stagehand on the side. He grabbed some flowers that he probably stole from someone's gravesite, the slimy little shit that he is. And he turned around and he handed them to Takeshita. Takeshita then shoved the flowers into Tony Schiavone's face and handed them off to him. And the two of them left together. The fans did not give a shit about anything that this person talked about in this segment. Don Callis, when he comes out, typically, in most cities, when Don Callis walks out, he gets incredible heat, right? We see the heat Dominic Mysterio gets in WWE. The closest thing in AEW is Don Callis. And usually he comes out, if he goes to speak, especially, he usually gets incredible heat. That was not the case here. This place, this building in Cincinnati, these fans didn't care. They were very, very quiet for this entire segment. Callis insulting Inoki.
Look, everyone, it's Samoa Bro.
Hey, thank you, Zachariah. Callis insulting Inoki was, I think, the giveaway. Even though they haven't made it official yet, that's the giveaway that this match is going to be taking place at Wrestle Dream in Seattle. Wrestle Dream, Tony Khan has already talked about Wrestle Dream, the genesis of it, being held on the 1-year anniversary of the death of Inoki. It's basically like a love letter to Antonio Inoki, who Tony Khan has said was the greatest dreamer of all, which I think Tommy Dreamer might object. So, name-dropping Inoki here, I think, was a little nod to the fact that this will be taking place at Wrestle Dream. And look, Ibushi against Takeshita sounds great, depending on the version of Ibushi that we get. I thought he looked a little bit better at All In than he did in Blood and Guts. But again, this is going to be a very different situation because he has only had 2 matches, singles matches, this entire year. Those 2 singles matches that he had came WrestleMania weekend. Those were the first 2 matches of any kind that he had since 2021 when he injured his shoulder. And that was months ago. He came back in July, Blood and Guts. There were 10 men. And then All In, he's in a trios match. So this is going to be a test for Ibushi as much as anything because he has not really been tested in a single situation in a very long time. So what version of Kota Ibushi are we going to get in Seattle? It's easy to think back to the Ibushi that we remember from New Japan a few years ago when he was the Intercontinental Champion and the IWGP Champion. This is an older Kota Ibushi who's, I believe, still hurt. I still don't believe he's fully healed up from his injury. I think that has a lot to do, honestly, with what we've seen from him so far. But we'll see. On paper, again, that sounds like a fantastic match. And I'm looking forward to it. But again, a lot of it just depends on which version of Ibushi are we going to get when we get to Seattle. But as far as a 1-2 punch, you got Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson. You get Takeshita and Ibushi. Holy shit. That was terrifying. That's the new Nia's Hole super chat for $15. Jacob, you scared the fucking crap out of me, brother. Jacob Donnelly, thank you. Boy, she was angry that day. What an angry woman. My God. Anyway, that's a great 1-2 punch for Wrestle Dream as far as that pay-per-view is concerned. I'm not alone, right? I'm not alone. I'm talking about how terrifying that was. Sounds like a cat that was being drugged behind a car. All right, Alex Marvez was backstage. Good old Alex. He was with Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli. Danielson issued a challenge to Ricky Starks and to Big Bill for a tag team match on Collision this coming Saturday against himself and Claudio, so that match is now official. Marvez noted that Moxley would be defending his AEW International Championship against Rey Fenix at Grand Slam next week, while Claudio would defend his Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title against Eddie Kingston. And Moxley, who is still kind of reeling from his match and all bloody and kind of out of it, although I think he was kind of born that way. It's just kind of how he looks. He downplayed their title defenses and said that it would be like a day off for them. Rey Fenix showed up, and he had to be held back. He had to be restrained by Penta and Alex Abrahantes. He wanted at Jon Moxley. Meanwhile, Eddie Kingston, a wild Eddie Kingston, suddenly just shows up in the background, and he's having a silent stare down with Claudio. While in the foreground, all these men are being separated, and they're being taken away. Claudio is standing there. Eddie is standing there. They're staring each other down. And finally, Eddie just says, "One more week." And he breaks out into laughter as he walks off. And Claudio has a concerned look on his face. So it is happening. It is happening at Dynamite Grand Slam. I'm very happy about that. It would have been completely stupid to do that match on a taped show. It's a lot on the line in that match. You know, 2 titles are on the line in that match. You have the New Japan Strong Openweight title that Eddie has, and the ROH World title that Claudio has. So I don't want to say we're guaranteed a new champion, because we could always get some kind of fluky finish, you know, like a draw or something. It's not a no holds bar, no disqualification, there must be a winner type situation. So don't assume that we are going to get a new champion next week, because they could very well do a finish like that. But it is likely that somebody is going to walk out with 2 titles. I'm hoping and I'm thinking that it's going to be Eddie Kingston. I think in New York City, at that stadium, he already lost to Claudio at Supercard of Honor earlier this year. This is a moment that has been a long time in the making. And it might have been a situation where Tony Khan wanted to save it for a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, but you're not going to get more visibility than you will on your A show on television in a venue like that. You're not going to have 20,000 people like you did 2 years ago at Arthur Ashe. They're struggling to sell tickets. They're doing 2-for-1 ticket deals in New York right now for Grand Slam, trying to get more people into the building. I don't know what the current count is. I haven't seen an updated attendance figure in about a week. Last I saw, it was between 5,000 and 6,000, which is not good. You know, when they had 20,000 2 years ago, they had about 13,000 last year. If they had 6,000, there's no way to look at that and justify that and say, oh, that's a good number. If you go into most buildings for Dynamite and do 6,000 people, yes, that would be a good number. In Arthur Ashe Stadium, no, I don't consider that to be a good number. So they have a week to try to beef those numbers up and get them maybe, you know, as close to 10K as they can. But it's still one of the bigger AEW shows that they do all year. And I think that would be the perfect place, for Eddie Kingston to finally win the big one and walk out with the ROH World title. So I'm glad they're doing that on Wednesday and not Friday. Now, Renee was in the back, and she was about to interview Hook, who at Wembley Stadium regained his FTW title from Jack Perry, who will go down in AEW history as one of the most significant figures, who knew, in the history, not only of AEW, but one of the more important figures, frankly, in the history of wrestling, at least modern day wrestling, if you look at what happened. We haven't seen him. He's still under suspension. We haven't seen him since All In. But before Hook could even answer her question, here comes Orange Cassidy, who strolls on in. He still has a bandage on his head from last week. Just walking around, he says he saw Hook looking all mad. And he doesn't understand it. He goes, why are you so mad? He says, you got a title. He said, I used to have a title. Hook then spoke. He called him a great champion. Orange Cassidy said, thank you, man. You are too. And the two of them fist bumped each other. Hook left, and Renee asked Orange Cassidy if he's okay, and he just said, he's still so tired. So I guess, they're flying him in for these shows, and he's just sort of wandering around aimlessly in the back. The poor guy's so tired. Let him take a vacation. Apparently, he's still walking around. We had Britt Baker, Toni Storm, Hikaru Shida, and Nyla Rose, with Marina Shafir in her corner, four-way, to decide who would challenge Saraya next week at Grand Slam for the AEW Women's World Championship. Toni Storm came out to the Outcasts' Titantron, for lack of a better term, and their theme music, even though she is clearly no longer part of this faction. She's still coming out to the Outcasts' music. Nyla wiped out Britt Baker and Shida early on. Baker and Shida, they fought back, sending Nyla to the outside. Toni Storm then sent Shida into Baker on the apron. And everybody ended up all bunched up together outside. Shida did a dive out onto Nyla, Toni Storm, and Marina Shafir heading into the commercial break. Speaking of which, look at that. There's Orange Cassidy on screen right now. Just funny how that works. Hey, thank you, by the way, to all of our new subscribers. We are inching closer to 75,000. So I don't know if we'll get there this week or next week. That's up to you guys, but we are getting very close. So I thank you for that. So we go to commercial. Storm and Nyla, they controlled the action during the picture-in-picture until Britt Baker sent Nyla Rose into the corner. Toni Storm then came charging in for her sweet cheap music. Storm got dropped by Shida, and we had a brief little face-off here between Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida, who have had their issues of late. Until we got stereo chop blocks from Toni Storm and Nyla Rose to put a stop to that. Rose laid out Storm with the Beast Bomb, and then a choke slam on Britt Baker. Shida, though, rolled through a Beast Bomb attempt into a roll-up for a 2 count. Shida hit the Katana to Nyla Rose, and Britt Baker hit an awkward curb stomp on Nyla, on Shida. Storm sees an opening. She sneaks in, and she schoolgirls Britt Baker, rolls her up, and gets the pin to win the match and become #1 contender for the AEW Women's World Championship. When the match is over, they had cut away to a shot of Toni Storm in the aisleway. She's backing up the ramp, and she's celebrating her win. She's kind of all shocked and everything. They cut back to the ring, and we see that Shida she's basically mounted on top of Britt Baker, and she's beating the hell out of her on the floor. And at first, the announcers aren't even acknowledging this. Eventually, they finally said, oh, okay, Hikaru Shida is very upset. No shit. You could have fooled me. So she's beating up Britt. Britt's kind of, pushing herself away. And now Shida's yelling at her. I guess she's very upset about Britt kicking her or whatever accidentally earlier in the match. And Britt ends up just leaving the ring. She kind of pulls herself out to the floor and exits the ring. And meanwhile, Toni is on the ramp posing like a Hollywood starlet. And she's going to Grand Slam next week to wrestle Saraya for the title. The match itself from start to finish, the match lasted 6 minutes. We got about 2 of that, maybe 2.5, that actually aired full screen. And forget the picture-in-picture bullshit, okay? Full screen, full attention, about 2 minutes of this match actually aired on television. For a match that had such high stakes, you're crowning a number 1 contender for your big Grand Slam show next week. And you have some of the biggest names in your women's division are in this match. All of whom I think every single one of them are former AEW World Champions in the women's division. And you give them 2 minutes is basically what they got. You gave them 2 minutes on television, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it felt like a throwaway match. For a match that had such high stakes, it certainly was not treated like a match with high stakes, which is a problem when it comes to the women's division. So they gave them 2 minutes. And, I mean, I didn't care for the match. I'm glad that Toni Storm won. She was my pick to win. I'm glad she got it. And she's going to Grand Slam next week. I think that's the right move. But the match was a complete throwaway. I don't understand, and we fast forward a little bit later on in the show. There was a tag team match later in the show with Darby Allin and Nick Wayne wrestling Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. And they set up an angle for a match at Grand Slam next week with a Christian Cage promo. And we're going to get Christian and Luchasaurus against Sting and Darby Allin. You could have done that on Collision or Rampage. But you could have done it on Friday. You could have done it on Saturday and given this match more time. Because that match got more time than this one did. Darby Allin and Nick Wayne against Angelo Parker and Matt Menard. It's 7 or 8 minutes. A 4-way match to crown a number 1 contender for your women's world title gets, again, let's be honest, it got 2 minutes. You could have cut that match and given this match more time. But Renee was backstage with Saraya and Ruby Soho. Saraya said that once Toni Storm lost her women's title, she also lost her mind. And she is going to lose a Grand Slam as well, leaving Storm with nothing. If this woman is not part of this group anymore, please get her new music. She should have this whole big, Hollywood-esque entrance. I hope they're working on something like that. Maybe next week, maybe in New York City, they'll debut a whole new entrance for Toni Storm. Literally, they can roll out the red carpet for her as she comes down the aisle, have paparazzi on either side, snapping photos. You got to do it right. It's got to fit the gimmick. Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, they were out to the ring next in street clothes for one last promo before their friendly battle at Grand Slam next week. The challenge was made on Rampage, for those who don't watch Rampage, which I'm sure is a lot of you. On Rampage, Chris Jericho does commentary. Sammy Guevara came out. The challenge was made. They're going to fight it out next week to get it out of their systems. They've been having issues with each other. And the idea is that we're going to have a match. We're going to beat the hell out of each other. And when the match is over, we're going to shake hands, and then we're going to go on to become the greatest tag team champions of all time. Or at least that's the idea. So Jericho pitched it to a short video package with highlights of the whole Jericho-Guevara relationship going back to the very beginning of AEW. After it was over, they came back live. Sammy admitted he still doesn't know the lyrics to Judas. Jericho says on October 21st, 2018, he was watching the NWA's 70th anniversary show. This is back in the good old days when the NWA didn't have fucking Tyrus as their world champion, who thankfully is world champion no more. On the other hand, they forced me to root for EC3. It was one of these things where, what do I do here? I don't know what to do. The lesser of two evils here. What do I do? But back in the old days of 2018, when they did not have Tyrus as their world champion, they had their 70th anniversary show. And he noticed a young star in one of the prelim matches that he had never seen before, but he was very impressed by, a man by the name of Sammy Guevara. And he was blown away to the point that he called Tony Khan and said, look, you need to sign this kid. He didn't really enjoy the giant panda head that he was. I do remember the giant panda head that he used to wear. But he knew that Sammy had what it took, so he wanted to help him out as much as he possibly could. And he said over the years, he has watched Sammy grow from a boy to a man. Sammy has matured. He's won titles. He got married. Now he's about to have a baby. Then he corrected himself and said that Sammy's wife is about to have a baby. Thank God. Thank God Jericho clarified that, because I would have been very confused. So Jericho said he's proud of him. And Sammy knows that typically we trash talk each other when we come out here in the ring. That's what we do. That's what wrestlers do. He goes, I'm not going to do that because you inspire me. He used to do code breakers in his mom's backyard. So he just wants to thank Jericho for changing his life, for changing everyone's life. He said, without Chris Jericho, there is no AEW. But he didn't come out here just to be Jericho's sidekick. He wants us to look at him the way we look at Jericho and the other top names, the Kenny Omegas and the John Moxleys of the world. But he knows that's never going to happen as long as he is in Jericho's shadow, which is why he needs to beat Chris Jericho next week. Jericho tells him that he was never brought here to be his sidekick. He says he was brought here to be a main event draw, a money-making megastar, and he's getting closer every week. Told him months ago Sammy has to do it on his own, and next week he has the biggest opportunity to do that. Sammy has to beat Jericho, but if he's going to beat Jericho, he'll have to be the best Sammy Guevara. Better than he's ever been before. And Jericho says, I don't think you're ready yet. And this upset Sammy Guevara. He said, you see, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I need to beat you next week. He said Jericho doesn't truly respect him like Sammy respects him. So next week, he'll beat Jericho as this man. Not the 2018 version, but the man in front of Jericho right now. So he's going to earn his respect. They're going to shake hands. They're going to hug. And then they're going to go on to win the tag team titles. So Sammy puts his hand out. Jericho shakes it, but then he pulls Sammy in close. Jericho says he'll give Sammy the match of his life, but he's not going to go easy on him. Says he's going to beat the living hell out of him. He'll punch him harder than he's ever been punched in his life, and expects the exact same thing back from him. And Sammy said that he would not have it any other way. And they walked off together. I thought it was a fine segment to remind us of the history between these two. These two have a legitimate history in this company that goes back to the genesis of AEW and the genesis of the Inner Circle. This is the first singles match that we are getting between these two, which is why I thought they would put it off until Full Gear, maybe Wrestle Dream. So I was surprised, and frankly, I'm still surprised that they're doing this on Grand Slam. It may not be the only time we see them in the ring together. It could be the first of several matches these two have. But I think as far as giving us a history lesson here and, kind of getting us prepped for the match next week, I thought they did what they needed to do. We didn't need the pull apart, because that's not what this is. I mean, they've had their disagreements and their miscommunications and stuff, but these two in storyline, they're still friends. So you're not going to do the traditional pull apart brawl between them. This is supposed to be a friendly exhibition between two friends who, when the match is over, whoever wins, they're going to go on to become tag team champions, right? That's the idea. I don't see it working out that way. I think here's how I see it playing out. I think Jericho's going to win. I think Jericho lost to Will Ospreay at All In. I don't think Jericho even had a match at All Out, which that may well be the first AEW pay-per-view that Chris Jericho didn't have a match on. But now we're going into this show. If it is the first of what may end up being multiple matches, you had Sammy in this promo saying, I need to beat you, right? What does that remind you of? That's exactly what Adam Cole said to MJF ahead of their match at Wembley Stadium, which is the same thing Stone Cold said to The Rock, which is what reminded me of that. But he says, I have to beat you, right? And he didn't. Sammy has to, in his mind, he has to go in there and beat Jericho to earn his respect and prove that he's more than just a sidekick. And Jericho says, I don't think you're ready. I think Jericho wins. It's a close match, but Jericho proves to be correct, that Sammy is not ready. And I think that could be the catalyst for a turn. I think one of these guys is going to turn. And of the two, I think Sammy is the likeliest. And it could be precipitated by him losing to Jericho, and he can't handle it. Jericho wins and says, all right, see, we got it out of our system. Now we're going to go. Sammy says, no. Right? He can't let it lie. And that's why I think we'll end up with more than just one match between these two. But for what this was meant to do, I thought that this served its purpose. I thought it was fine. We had footage that aired from backstage last week of Renee in the trainer's room with MJF being tended to by the trainer for his bad neck. Adam Cole was there as well. The trainer said that he would not be able to work next week, but he would be, next week being tonight, but he said that he would be cleared and he would be good to go for Grand Slam. MJF was stoked. He goes, dude, fine by me. I get a week off. And then he talked about tonight's finals between Samoa Joe and Roderick Strong. He mocked Roddy for being bland, called him Roddy the Simp Strong, faking a neck injury. He said if Strong makes it to Arthur Ashe, he would rip his head off and stick it up his ass. As for Samoa Joe, he promised that if he won the tournament, he would choke Joe out. And then he proceeded to reenact the old Steiner Math promo from many years ago in TNA, which may be the greatest promo in the history of the business. I'm thinking, it probably is. Think of all the classic promos you ever saw. Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Roddy Piper, everybody in between, right? All these classic promos. How are any of them better than Steiner Math? I mean, come on. How the people in that segment even kept a straight face when he was talking, I'll never know. I would love to know how many takes that took. I always cracked up at the part where Steiner says, I'm not normal, right? Like, this applies to normal people, but I'm not normal. I mean, you talk about the obvious statement of the year. But yes, he proceeded to, and I'm sure he was reading off of a fucking teleprompter or something, but he did a good job reenacting the Steiner Math thing. I just love the fact that it was a promo that Steiner cut on Samoa Joe. And so here MJF cut the same promo on who? Samoa Joe. So I enjoyed that. I thought this was great. Now, the best part about this whole thing may have been watching Renee as she stood there trying to absorb everything that MJF was saying and trying to follow along and failing miserably. So I thought this entire segment was great. Anytime we're talking about a Steiner Math reenactment, it's going to be great. And no, there was no mention of Joe being fat. That wasn't even the Steiner Math promo, right? That was a Main Event Mafia sit down, right? Wasn't it like the darkened arena? No fans. Recorded earlier in the day with Mike Tenay in the ring, sitting there with the Main Event Mafia members. Steiner starts going off on Joe being fat. No, there were no fat jokes here about Samoa Joe. Hangman Adam Page against Brian Cage. We have Page and Cage. Part 3. This was the rubber match of their series. Cage won their first match on Dynamite many years ago. Page won their second, which was a Double or Nothing in 2021. And that match was great. This match, not great, but it was still very good. It did not rise to the level of their Double or Nothing match. But this was Hangman Page's first singles match on Dynamite in 7 months. The last time Hangman Adam Page had a singles match on this television show was in February against Kip Sabian. When I saw that, I couldn't believe that, but it's true. Springboard clothesline on the apron sent Cage outside. Page wanted a slingshot dive, but Cage caught him, posted him. Page returned the favor by turning a powerbomb attempt into a Hurricane Rana, and the Rana sent Brian Cage hurling forward into the ring post. Back inside, Cage tried a pop-up powerbomb, which Hangman countered into another Rana. Page wanted the buckshot, but Swerve Strickland's music hit, and he walked out on stage with Prince Nana, and this distracted Hangman long enough for Cage to hit a German suplex from the apron back into the ring. So it was all Cage during the commercial until Cage hit a snap power slam, and then he missed the follow-up moonsault from the middle rope. Hangman battled back. They both spilled out to the floor. Page wanted his Orihara moonsault to the floor, but Brian Cage rolled back inside. and he caught a cross-body block attempt. Hangman countered into a crucifix bomb, and Cage rolled out to the floor. Page finally did hit the Orihara moonsault. Back inside, Page managed to hit a top rope crossbody. Cage, though, kicked out. Brian Cage hit a release German and wanted an outside-in suplex. Page, though, swept the legs, and then he tried for the buckshot lariat. Cage countered into an F5 attempt, which Hangman then countered into a small package. Page was up first, and he picked up Brian Cage, dropped him with a deadeye right on his head, and he pinned him to pick up the win. And he wins the series, 2-1. So again, this was a good match. It just was not at the level of match number 2. I have no memory of the first match. The only thing I remember about their first match is that Brian Cage won. But I don't actually remember the match itself. The second match, though, was very good. And this one was good. After the match was over, Hangman got on the mic. And he said he was addressing Swerve, who was standing on the ramp. He said last week, Swerve wanted his spot, but yet he set Brian Cage to fight him instead. And Page thought that Swerve had balls, but clearly he's keeping them in Prince Nana's Burger King crown. Strickland said those sound like fighting words, but he's dumber than the Cincinnati education system if he thinks that he is going to be fighting him tonight. Strickland says he picks the where and the when, and he said that it's going to be in his hometown of Seattle at Wrestle Dream. Swerve said that he would make sure that Page didn't get too comfortable before then. He goes, "Ain't that right, Brian Cage?" And right on cue, Cage attacked Hangman from behind. So Cage and Nana, they're both putting the boots to Hangman Page. Nana stopped, and he started to do a dance in the ring. While that's going on, the Young Bucks show up. They get into the ring, double super kicks for Brian Cage. Nana has no idea that this is going on. He's continuing to dance. Finally, he turns around, and the Young Bucks dropped him with super kicks as well. So there's no need to overload the card next week in New York. They've got a more than solid lineup for Dynamite next week. So doing the match of Wrestle Dream instead, and being in Seattle, Swerve's hometown, that makes a lot more sense. Because you got this pay-per-view coming up 11 days later. You don't want to give everything away next week. So we're getting the match of Wrestle Dream. It's nice to see Hangman in a proper feud. He's been on the back burner for so long. Not only good to see him have a new feud to sink his teeth into, but Swerve as well. You know, and we've seen Swerve. He's been more visible on the show these last few months. He took the losing fall in the tag team coffin match at Wembley. But he's moved on now, and this is a fresh match. It's a fresh feud. It's a fresh match, and I think these two are going to go out. They're going to have a great match. So I'm looking forward to it. Renee was in the back with Daniel Garcia and wanted to ask him about Jericho and Sammy's match next week, which upset him. You know, he says, everybody wants to ask me about other people. Nobody wants to ask me about me. And I guess he mentioned, at one of the football games this weekend, somebody was doing his stupid dance. I didn't write down which game he was referring to. But he's talking about people doing his dance, and we should be talking about that. Don Callis interrupted, and he said he knows how Garcia feels, considering he knows the ultimate narcissist that is Chris Jericho. He says he's creating a meritocracy in the Don Callis family, and before he could go any further, Garcia stops him, puts his finger to his mouth and stops him, and then he proceeds to do his stupid dance, and then he walks off. And Callis tells Renee, that's money, and he goes to chase after Garcia. That is not money. It might be entertaining, but one thing it is not money. We got highlights of Jade Cargill's return on Collision last Saturday. For those who don't know, Jade is back. Jade Cargill made her return, came to the aid of Chris Statlander, of all people, who was being beaten down by the Renegade Twins. And then she laid out Chris Statlander as well, after she laid out the Renegade Twins. So, when are we getting the match? When are we getting the proper match between Statlander and Jade Cargill? Are we getting it at Grand Slam? Maybe Rampage Grand Slam? Are we getting it at Wrestle Dream? Nope. We're getting it this Friday on Rampage. They're doing this TBS Championship match, Jade's big return. Her against Statlander, they're doing it on Rampage. And the only thing that I could think about them doing it on Rampage this week is maybe they're a little worried that, Jade, who's still very green, hasn't wrestled in months, and they want to have the ability to clean it up in post if the match doesn't end up, being as smooth as they would like for it to be, because that's the tape show on Friday. Otherwise, I don't know, just very strange that that match would be thrown out there on Rampage Friday night. Jade lost her championship months ago. Chris Statlander was the first person to hand her very first defeat. She comes back on Saturday, and you're going to give this match away on Rampage. I don't really understand that. But then you'll have people saying, well, that's how you get people to watch Rampage, by putting title matches on Rampage. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that Rampage has long since been established to, I think, a lot of people, is a very missable show. It is the most missable of all of the AEW weekly shows. And the numbers, on Friday nights, the numbers are what they are. All it does to me, when I hear this, is it positions the two women in that match and the TBS title as being less than. That's how I see it. And I think that's how a lot of people probably see it. We had Darby Allin and Nick Wayne against Matt Menard and Angelo Parker, who had Jake Hager in their corner. 30 seconds into the match, Christian Cage's music hits. He walks out on stage with Luchasaurus. He takes a seat at the announce desk. So Menard and Parker, they make frequent tags. They're picking apart Nick Wayne. We skip ahead here. Darby hits a code red on Angelo Parker, only gets a 2 count. Parker tried to roll up on Darby, who kicked off, and Wayne connected with Wayne's World. Darby wiped out Matt Menard with a somersault senton to the floor, and he made the tag, with Nick Wayne hitting a moonsault onto Menard and Hager. Darby hit a coffin drop onto Angelo Parker to win the match for their team. So not much to this. Which is why I made the comment before about how this match did not need to take place on this show. You could have taken this match and put it on one of the shows later in the week and given the women's 4-way another 5 minutes. So, I mean, my God, there's nothing you can do about the commercial break, right? You're going to have the commercial break, although it always seems to, no matter what, it always seems to fall on the women's match, right? Which is kind of funny, but that match could have benefited from more time just because so little of it actually aired full screen on the show. So again, I don't think this had to take place tonight. But when the match was over, Christian got up from the announce desk, he took the microphone, and he talked about how he was scrolling through Nick Wayne's mom's Instagram account, which is a little creepy. And he was disappointed, he said, that she doesn't post enough bikini photos. He says he's pissed off that there's still talk about Sting and Darby's win at All In, because it's embarrassing. Although not as embarrassing as the Bengals losing to the Browns, but it's still embarrassing nonetheless. He pointed out that he didn't take the losing fall in that match, which he didn't, it was Swerve. Nor did he have his regular partner in that match. So he challenged Darby and Sting, who was not there tonight, but he challenged Darby and Sting to a tag team match at Arthur Ashe next week against himself and Luchasaurus. Now, on commentary during the match, the announcers really put over how beat up and how thrashed Darby's back is. Because Darby's talked recently, even going into the Wembley show, about how fucked up his back is. But then coming out of Wembley, he did that coffin drop on top of the casket, and then he said that, his spine is all messed up now, and I don't doubt it. I mean, they could be exaggerating it and playing it up for storyline purposes. All you need to do is just watch Darby in the ring, and when he takes these sick bumps, I'm sure his spine is all fucked up. But the announcers were really playing it up, which felt like that was the real reason for even doing this match, just to give them the chance to talk about how beat up Darby's back is. And clearly that's going to play a role probably in the outcome of the match next week, because I'm thinking that it'll be Christian and Luchasaurus who pick up the win in that match. So we'll see how the injury plays into things next week. But I think this will be a recoup win for Christian Cage next week. And then, Christian's going to defend the TNT title probably. Well, I guess maybe the Dinosaur could. I guess we'll see. Could Christian legally defend the TNT title on his behalf, though? Because I'd rather see him in the ring with Darby. So that'll be interesting. Because I think Wrestle Dream, whatever it's going to be a Wrestle Dream. You talk about Darby, Nick Wayne, both of them right from the Seattle area. I don't know if they'll do a triple threat. I don't know why Nick Wayne would even be getting a TNT title match this early, but there is a Seattle connection there, so I'm sure we'll get that match. The main event of this show was the finals of the Grand Slam Eliminator Tournament. It was Samoa Joe, or Samoa Bro, whatever you call him. He's a fucking badass. He came down to the ring to face Roderick Strong, who very much, when he walks out, does not look like a badass, especially not with the neck brace on. Once the bell rings, Roddy is a beast. But you compare the two of them, one looks a certain way, the other one doesn't. But this was for a shot at the AEW World Heavyweight Championship against MJF next week in New York. Joe was the man, let us not forget, who broke poor Roddy's neck all those many weeks ago. So this was Roddy's chance for revenge. This went about as well for him as their last encounter did. Joe got the better of Roddy in the early going. He forced him to regroup outside with his fellow Kingdom members. Strong tried a chop battle. Joe connected on a headbutt and controlled the match heading into the final commercial break. Roddy was able to ground
Look,
Joe.
everyone, it's Samoa Bro.
Perfect timing. Hey, Bobbert, thank you, man, for the $18. Samoa Bro. We're going to talk about him right now. Strong was able to ground Joe after a series of strikes connected with a missile dropkick. Only got a 1 count. Joe came back with his Manhattan drop, big boot, running senton combo, flattened Roddy with a snap power slam for 2. Strong floated over a power bomb and hit a series of charging forearms, and Joe finally just crumbled. Joe countered an angle slam attempt. Roddy, though, connected with a running lariat. Joe was able to avoid the stronghold and then hit the ST Joe. The ST Joe in the corner put Roddy down very hard. He backed Roddy into the opposite corner, and he was setting up for the Muscle Buster. This poor fucking guy with a broken neck, he's going to give him a Muscle Buster. So we have Mike Bennett to save the day. He jumps up on the apron to run distraction. He gets knocked down off the apron. Roddy comes back with an angle slam, and then a running kick off the ropes takes Joe down for a near fall. Booted him right in the face. Strong tried for a leaping knee strike. I think this might have been my favorite part of the match. So it looked to me like he was getting ready to deliver a leaping knee strike. As Roddy goes to jump up, Joe just swats him out of midair with a hilariously stiff lariat. Just fucking clotheslines the shit out of this guy. And down goes Roddy. And then Joe sank in the coquina clutch with the body scissors. There was no getting out of this. Roddy quickly tapped out, and Samoa Joe picked up the win. Samoa Joe advances to Arthur Ashe next week. He will wrestle MJF for the AEW World title. Joe grabbed the microphone when the match was over, and he had some words for young Maxwell. He said, "Oh, Max," he said, "it seems my little prophecy has come true, and next week I go to your backyard, and I'm coming for you. Because I'm going to walk you down, I'm going to beat you up, and I'm going to take everything that you have, kid. Everything." So with that, Joe parted ways with us. He walked to the back. As Joe left, disappeared into the back, Adam Cole comes out, the opposite side of the stage. And he's on his way down to the ring. In the ring, the Kingdom is with Roddy. And they're checking on him to, see how he is and everything. So Cole is rushing down to the ring. And you can see Roddy, he kind of looks behind him and he spots Cole coming to the ring. And Roddy takes a phantom bump. He collapses to the mat. He's screaming in agony. He's clutching his injured neck. This, as soon as he spotted Cole, he just dropped. He dropped like a rock. Doctors came into the ring. They put Roddy back in a neck brace. They stretchered him, put him on a stretchered him out of the ring. He was yelling at him incessantly over and over again, yelling Adam Cole's name, looking for him. Meanwhile, Taven and Bennett don't want him even to come near them. They're like, you've done enough. Leave us alone. On commentary, unless I misheard here, and I don't remember who it was, but on commentary, they tried to blame the sudden sharp turn that Roddy took when he turned and spotted Cole as the possible reason why he got hurt. So the Kingdom continued to verbally attack Adam Cole. They left the ring and they were walking alongside the stretcher as Roddy got wheeled to the back. And the entire time Cole is trying to plead his case, and now Cole is on the stage looking off, again, trying to address them and call them back or whatever. All of a sudden, back out from the locker room comes Samoa Joe. He sneaks up behind Adam Cole and he locks him in the coquina clutch. And he takes him down to the ground and he puts him out. And he looks dead in the camera and he tells MJF, he screams everything, right? Because he said he's going to take everything from this kid. He says, everything. I'm taking everything from you. And while Cole was laying unconscious on the ground, Joe put his foot on him and he started to flex like he was fucking Hogan. Excalibur then ran down the card for next week. They had a lot of time left. Like when the match ended, it was 9:55. So we had another 5 minutes. You knew something was going to happen. With the time they had left, Excalibur ran down the card for next week and they went off the air. I like the closing angle. They are playing it up for comedy. And, you know, part of me is like, should you be doing that with your main event feud? The thing is, with Joe, there's no comedy involved. The comedy is Roderick Strong. And frankly, it's the best way to get people interested in whatever Roderick Strong is doing. Because as great of a wrestler as Roddy is, the things that MJF says about him, calls him, you know, bland, you're a default caw, you're a generic white guy. I hate to break it to you, but everything he is saying is true. He does look like a default caw. He does look like a generic white guy. The bell rings, the guy can go, but how do you make him interesting? This is the most interesting he's been in forever. So, I mean, I get a kick out of the angle. Obviously, he's not the one going on to challenge for the championship next week. The guy challenging for the championship, it don't get more serious than Samoa Joe. There's nothing funny about any of the stuff that Samoa Joe is doing. So I don't have an issue with that. It keeps the story going with Roddy and Cole. And then we get Joe and MJF next week. I wasn't sure. They could have gone with Roddy and saved Joe for Wrestle Dream. But they're going to do the match next week. I think that's the right move. And I said it at the beginning of the stream. If it were up to me, I would very seriously consider doing a title change next week. Pull the trigger on it. Shake things up a little bit. Even if he only holds the title for 11 days and MJF gets it back in Seattle. I'm not even sure if MJF is defending his title in Seattle. He didn't defend his title in Chicago. Who's to say he's going to defend it in Seattle? They may wait until Full Gear and do a title match there. But man, it's an opportunity for them to shake things up, put that world title on Joe in New York City. Some sort of miscommunication maybe involving Cole and Roddy. Yeah, there'd be some fuckery involved in the finish. I don't get the sense we're getting a world title change next week. But that's the match that I was hoping that we would end up getting. And I enjoyed the promo battle between them the week before. Now we'll get the match. I'm loving this run that Joe is on. You know, he's been able to stay healthy. We've seen a lot more of him on television. He's still the Ring of Honor television champion, but they're not hiding him away. I mean, you look at the difference in how Joe is being booked as compared to someone like Athena. Athena was on the pre-show in Chicago. But we don't see Athena on Dynamite. We don't see Athena usually on Collision. We don't see her on Rampage, right? Not every week anyway. She's being hidden away. She's being hidden behind a fucking paywall, which is a crime because she's one of the best they have in that women's division. Joe, on the other hand, and Claudio as well. Claudio usually makes the main AEW shows, and he's the Ring of Honor World Champion. We're getting to see a lot more of Joe. I'm loving the work that he's putting in, and I look forward to next week's show. I said these lineups. Let's just go through this right now. Rampage coming up this Friday has Chris Statlander defending the TBS title against Jade Cargill, which again I don't understand why they're doing that match on fucking Rampage this week. If you're gonna do it on Rampage, I can understand Rampage Grand Slam. I don't know why they're doing it this Friday. Maybe once we see the finish, it'll make more sense. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, they're going to be in trios action. Matt Taven and Mike Bennett take on Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal. And the Hardys and the Lucha Bros team up to take on Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, The Butcher, and The Blade. So for those who are interested in that, that's your Friday night lineup. Collision on Saturday. Bryan Danielson and Claudio take on Ricky Starks and Big Bill. FTR defend the AEW Tag Team titles. And what else? A fucking open challenge. They put an open challenge out there to any young tag team who wants to step up to them. They'll get a tag team championship match. And the first team coming up is the former Bear Country, the Iron Savages. They wrestle FTR on Saturday. Next Wednesday, it's Dynamite Grand Slam. We get Joe and MJF for the world title. Moxley and Phoenix. Ray Phoenix. Phoenix? I call him Phoenix. Like a rising Phoenix. International Championship on the line there. Chris Jericho takes on Sammy Guevara for the first time. We get Saraya defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Toni Storm. And I'm telling you, I want to see that new entrance. You got to have the red carpet. You got to have the photographers. You got to really do it up, man. Do it the right way. And then champion against champion. Title for title. Claudio Castagnoli puts his Ring of Honor World title on the line against Eddie Kingston, who puts his New Japan Strong Openweight title on the line in New York City. That's a pretty fucking strong lineup. I'm looking forward to Grand Slam very much last week. Last year, I was at Arthur Ashe. I was actually at Grand Slam last year. And, you know, I had fun, but I'm very happy to not be schlepping back all the way over there. And I'll be here with you. I'll get to be live with you next Wednesday night the way it should be when the show is over. Honestly, you know, they do these shows over at Arthur Ashe, and if you're not really familiar with the area over there, it's just the parking situation is just a fucking nightmare because there's really no parking for that stadium. You got to park over like where the Mets play by Citi Field and then walk all the way around. So anyway, it's kind of a nightmare over there, but I'm very curious to see how many more tickets they move now that the card has really come together. They've announced what feels like the full card for next week. We know what the main event is going to be. It's going to be Joe and MJF. Does that make a difference? You know, does that move extra tickets? And if so, how many more do they move? Because again, to go from 20,000 to 13,000 to maybe 6,000, you know, you're going down. You put this on a fucking chart. It's not hard to see. Like, that's not the direction you want to be going in. I mean, you're never, you know, your second time and third time in that market, in that building, you don't expect to do what you did the first time. It's no different with Wembley, by the way. Right? 81,000 people, Wembley Stadium. You're not getting that next year. You're not even going to come close to that next year. The question isn't, can we repeat what we did last year? The question is, how big will the drop be from what they did this year to what they will do next year? So there's always a drop that's expected, but if those numbers hold, I mean, that's a pretty steep drop. And that's not a good sign. That's not the direction you want to see those numbers going in. Here's the Dynamite poll. 67% thumbs up, 33% thumbs down for Dynamite tonight. At Solomonster on Twitter, we have a flurry of activity today. Tweeting up a storm about a whole bunch of different things. So go follow me on there. Chime in on the conversation. A lot of very intelligent people on there that I interact with, and then there's some real fucking morons too, unfortunately. Unfortunately, you take the good with the bad. That's why I want you guys on there. We need more good. You guys are good, right? You guys are the smart ones. But there is a lot of brain rot on that platform, unfortunately. I can attest. All right, let's take a look at your super chats. And then we will wrap this bad boy up. By the way, the goal for tonight was 405, and we're at 320-ish. So it looks like Be the Booker is going to have to wait until next week because there's no stream on Friday night. I'm not going to be here. So the next time I'll be live with you is not going to be until Monday. So you may be waiting a while for Be the Booker if we don't hit the goal tonight. But Christian chiming in with a $9.99 says, okay, it just randomly hit me for some reason. What if Logan Paul is LA Knight's Mania match? I wouldn't say that's far-fetched at all. I think you need to check out episode 825 of the Sound Off from this past Sunday. That's what I think you need to do. Because I literally just got done pitching and talking about that very match. So yes, it is very much a possibility. GMB with the $2 says, do you think Wesley is main event material? He says, I do. Main event material in NXT, yes. Main event material on the main roster. Look, he's got all the talent in the world. Do I think he will be a main event player on the main roster? I'm less certain about that. I think in the long term, he's got a chance, but I'm going to say no. I don't think so. But his talent is off the charts. He's a tremendously talented guy. I can't sit here now and tell you that when Wesley finally gets the call up, 6 months or a year later, he's going to be in main events. I just don't see it. Nick Grosso. Looking forward to Grand Slam next week. The card looks strong. It should be a good show. Do you think we see a big debut next week? Like Mercedes, maybe to confront Saraya for a match at Wrestle Dream? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, she's kept her injury and her injury status very close to the vest. She was at Wembley, and her foot was still in a walking boot. So I don't think we're going to see her wrestle for a while. It wouldn't surprise me to see her pop up at Arthur Ashe, though, given that she was already at Wembley. And have her come out and confront the winner of the Women's Championship match. I could see that. Doing the match at Wrestle Dream, though, that I don't think so. I just don't think so. I think that if she was to show up and there was a face-to-face confrontation, we could get that match maybe a full gear. So if she still needs some time to recover from her injury, you do it at full gear. I mean, look, if you're going to bring her in, she should make some appearances on the actual television show. Right? Maybe even wrestle a couple of matches. Wrestle Dream is 11 days later. You don't really have time to do much of anything. So why rush into it? Shutterbug fan with the $4.99 says, Roderick Strong works that neck brace like Bob Orton did with that cast years ago. That's right, good old Ace. Good old Ace. He wore that cast or D'Lo with the chest protector after Dan Severn stretched him. Right, same thing. Sad Roddy Strong with the $7. Whenever you're having a bad day, just remember you could be me. Oh, see, now I feel sorry for the guy now. Thank you, Sad Roddy. Marcus Robinson Johnson started my new job today. Okay show tonight. I enjoyed the MJF Steiner Math segment, and Shida's assets seem to have gotten more pronounced. Really? I had not noticed. ABK with the $205 super chat. Again, mentioned the OVW documentary, which is currently up on Netflix. I have not watched it. I don't have any current plans to watch it, but if I get some time, I might try to check it out. So you can right now. It is up on Netflix. Lady Fire Panda coming in with a whole bunch of super chats. About $13 worth. Thank you, Lady Fire Panda. And thank you, ABK. I don't know if ABK is still with us, but thank you to him. Zachariah Sitchin. How's your dad? There it is. blocking out the super chat. Zachariah says, did you hear about All In's total attendance debate? I figure Tony Khan did pay for Mercedes' ticket. I get he's got to wine and dine her, but 72K is still a milestone. He should not have labeled the show as he did, in my humble opinion. Yeah, that was a Freedom of Information request that was filed, and the local government in London came out with the actual turnstile number. So the number of people who entered through the turnstiles for All In at Wembley Stadium was 72,000. I think I have the number here. I think it was 72,235. Was that the number? 265. 72,265 was the turnstile attendance number for All In. Now, the paid attendance number was said to be 80,000, 81,000, whatever it was. But here's the thing. AEW was talking about this being the biggest wrestling attendance of all time. Obviously excluding the North Korea shows many years ago, which was a forced attendance situation. So they had 150,000, they had 190,000. That will never be topped regardless. But if the talk was that the turnstile number for WrestleMania 32 in Dallas was 80,709, and AEW was claiming 81,000, well, then they can't claim that anymore. So yes, it sounds like WrestleMania 32. As far as anybody knows, WrestleMania 32 may still hold the record. But like you said, 72,000, if that's the legitimate number, that's nothing to sneeze at, right? Their first time at fucking Wembley Stadium, their first time running London. But you can't go, well, I mean, I guess you can. WWE always does. But you can't go around saying that you got the all-time attendance record if it's going to come out that you didn't have the all-time attendance record. And I only first saw this a few hours ago, so maybe I'll be corrected. But that's what it looks like. It looks like they fell short of the actual attendance record, and WrestleMania still holds the record. I'm sure that people will have a very civil discussion about this on social media. I have not even looked yet to see what the conversation is on Twitter about this. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's very civil and very respectful, as these debates always are between the WWE tribalists and the AEW tribalists on social media. I'm sure they're having a very adult debate about this. Fire Panda, thank you. Peter Cordieri with the $4.99. I was waiting on Callis to talk about the ace Bob Orton. That's right, that's the one ace he did not mention. He did not mention Bob Orton. Jacob Donnelly with the $15 Nia Jax Super Chat, our newest one. The one thing about Edge's debut in AEW is we are guaranteed one of the most annoying Excalibur calls ever. Just thinking of him screaming, "It's Adam Copeland," makes my ears bleed. I thought we already talked about this. He's going to be Ledge. I still don't think Edge is coming to AEW. I'm gonna stand by that. I still feel like at the end of the day, Edge is not going to come to AEW. But he is still under contract to WWE through the end of the month. So whether he is or he isn't leaving, he's not going anywhere for at least another 3 weeks. Although that could be interesting, because his contract is set to be up either the very end of September or the first day of October. If his contract is up by, let's say, September 30th, AEW has a pay-per-view on October 1st in Seattle. So what a place to debut, right? The first, let's say if that's the first day that he's officially free of his contract, technically there would be nothing stopping him from making an appearance on that show. But I just don't see it. Rojo Bear, do you feel that Swerve's program with Hangman was meant for Jungle Boy? Because I believe so. I have no idea. I mean, it's a good guess, but no clue. I'm glad it's Swerve, because I think the two of them are going to have a kick-ass match. what their plans would have been for Jungle Boy coming out of All In. Would he still have been fighting with Hook for the FTW title? I think it's possible. I think it's possible they would have extended their feud a little bit longer. But I don't know. I don't know if it would have been Hangman or not. Zachariah says, here I am hoping Tony Khan does the right thing and gets the title off of Saraya. We all know she only won the belt because Jamie Hayter got injured. Or does her smoke and mirrors title reign continue? I don't think she's holding that belt for very long just because, again, we don't see her wrestling very often. And I don't know that Tony Khan is going to want to have a Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns-esque champion in his women's division. But I could see her holding the title for a little bit longer. I would say the latest that Saraya will hold that title is Full Gear. She'll either lose it next week or she'll lose it in November at Full Gear. I don't see her holding it longer than that. This is not going to be a 6-month reign as the women's champ. Somebody mentioned, for example, Mercedes before. If Mercedes is going to come in to work a match, it might be against Saraya. You know, if they're going to do that, again, I could see that being at Full Gear. But I don't see her holding the title much longer than that. Edwin with the $9.99. Mox is making up for the time in WWE that he could not believe. I said, it's like if you've ever held down a cat's tail, just put your hand down on the cat's tail and leave it there for like 20 seconds. As soon as you lift your hand up, the tail just goes nuts. That's Jon Moxley. All these things he couldn't do in WWE, and now you just sort of let him loose in this new environment, and he just goes crazy. You know, you got to do it every night, in every match, on every show. You don't. There was no need for him to fucking bleed in that match tonight. It's just ridiculous. It's just stupid. Magician Sapphire, what's your honest opinion on why AEW ticket sales are in decline? Is it because they're running the same markets too many times? Maybe they should run Grand Slam in a new, different city next year. Well, there's a whole bunch of different reasons, and I think it could just also be just a general lack of interest in some of the storylines. But I think that you hit the nail on the head there as far as they run these markets. And they also run markets in big buildings. So in some cases, they're running these buildings that fit a lot of people, and they're filling, I don't know, half of it maybe. And then sometimes they'll run a smaller venue that maybe only fits about like 3,000 or something. I don't know what the magic number is, but I think they need to start running some smaller venues if that's going to happen. And you can have your big shows in the big venues. But you don't want to have a bigger building that's only half full. So I think part of the problem is the buildings they run. But also, yes, I think they're going back to these same markets over and over again. And after a while, it's just the law of diminishing returns. Unless you have a product that's super hot, it's just not going to work. And like right now, the WWE product, I mean, as far as ticket sales go, I don't remember a period where their product was hotter. Even in the Attitude Era. Like, they're doing these Raw and SmackDown shows every week, and they're either selling out or nearly selling out every single week. Obviously, the pay-per-views do really well, and they're doing stadium shows fucking half a dozen times a year now. Not just WrestleMania. They just announced Royal Rumble today is coming back to Tropicana Field, this time with actual people in the building. So that's a stadium show. SummerSlam's a stadium show. WrestleMania is a stadium show. The Saudi shows are in stadiums usually. Clash at the Castle was a special show. That was in a stadium. I mean, the tickets are flying like never before. That's a hot product. Whatever it is. You know, it's resonating with the audience. That's just not happening right now with AEW. You know, I'm liking, for the most part, the key stories, like the MJF Adam Cole stuff. But it could also just be the fact that part of the product is just not connecting with people. They're just not interested in some of the stories they're telling. Or maybe they feel in some cases like not enough stories or good stories are being told. It's a whole multitude of different issues that you could point to, but the issue that you brought up about the markets, I think, is one of the bigger problems they have. Sonic Youth, as always, you are the man, Solo. Hey, Sonic Youth. Thank you, brother. Daniel Malcolm, thank you for the super chat. Ed Weber says, Will Ospreay just posted a video on Twitter showing his tattoo celebrating 81K. He landed in Japan to news that it wasn't the actual attendee. Oh, no. Well, you know, hey, look, when you tattoo something on your body, you do run the risk that eventually you might want to get that shit lasered off. I don't think he's going to care, honestly. That was a big moment for him. That's the attendance they announced. I think he'll be fine with it, but it's like Undertaker getting his ex-wife's name tattooed across his Adam's apple. I don't know why you would do that. Like, I can understand getting your girlfriend or your wife's name tattooed on your body somewhere, but like, why would you get her name tattooed across your fucking Adam's apple? He had to have that shit lasered off. I'm sure that didn't feel too good. Don't do that. If you're gonna get a tattoo, don't get one there. Unless it's just like a picture of something. Don't get somebody's name tattooed. That's a bad idea. No regrets. No regrets. Yeah, those are actually kind of funny. Those are kind of funny. When you have something tattooed and it's misspelled, that's unfortunate. Chris AXC. To me, AEW has surpassed TNA in the annals of history and overall success. Do you think they will surpass WCW's success, or have they already? It's a loaded question. I think in some ways they absolutely have. Yes. Some of the business accomplishments that they have notched in these last 4.5 years, they've already surpassed WCW in many ways. But as far as you look back in wrestling history and the most prosperous period, and I understand WWE's business right now is booming, but the most prosperous period in wrestling was the war between WWE and WCW during the Monday night period back in the late 90s. And WCW actually did something that even Tony Khan never did. They were beating Vince McMahon at his own game for 83 straight weeks. They were not just competitive with him, they were beating him. They had his back up against the wall. WWE's back has never been up against the wall when it comes to AEW. So that is something that WCW and Eric Bischoff and all of them can claim until the day they die. And that's something AEW will never be able to claim. So I can't sit here and tell you that they have totally surpassed WCW. They have in some ways. In other ways, I think if you lived through that period, you would understand how big that was, how big WCW was at its peak. You know, with the NWO stuff, and Sting and Goldberg. When I look at it that way, they're still up here, and AEW is still a level below. So I can't give you one black and white answer to that question. There's layers to it. In some ways, yes. In a lot of other ways, no. In a lot of other ways, they never will. Chris also says, do you think there is a talent loss that they could not recover from at this point? Or are they Teflon? Even the elite leaving, to me, would not kill the company. No, it wouldn't kill the company. I wouldn't say they're Teflon. I mean, look, if they lost MJF and they lost a couple of big names, oh yeah, they would take a fucking hit. Absolutely. Would it kill the company? No. One person, one wrestler leaving, I don't care who it is not going to kill WWE, and it's not going to kill AEW. The companies are big enough where even if you take away some of the big names, they're not going to shrivel up and die. Would it hurt them? Yes, it would. I have every reason to believe that MJF has already signed a new contract. I mean, they're going to play up the whole bidding war of 2024. That's the storyline. I think he's already signed. This is my opinion. Losing him, though, would be a huge blow to that company. Would it be a death blow? No, it wouldn't be a death blow. But it would be a terrible loss for them. Look, they just lost CM Punk. CM Punk was one of, if not their biggest star. They fired him. Is the company at death's door? No. They're going to survive and be just fine. You know, no one talent is bigger than the company itself. Bobbert, thank you for that $18. Big Armada, 1988. I get that the schedule for AEW talent is supposed to be more flexible, but at times, like Miro's wife, at times though, it can hurt the show when talent disappears for weeks to do other side endeavors. Jade Cargill is proof of this. No, I don't think Jade is a good example of that. Jade was undefeated, 60-0, right? 500 plus days as the champion. She finally lost, and she took some time off. I mean, it didn't impact the show at all. It wasn't like she was in like a big feature angle or anything like that. She was on television. She was the champion for a long period of time. She finally lost the belt, and she took some time off, and now she's back. And I wouldn't cite her as a good example of that. I agree with you that there are people who will show up on the show and will wrestle, and then maybe they'll be on the show the following week, and then we won't see them again for 6 to 8 weeks. And not even because they're hurt. I don't know why. It's not necessarily because they've booked outside projects. There are guys that they cycle in and out, but they're not on television long enough to build up any real stories for them. And the people sometimes who do have stories, like Andrade, it looked like he was finally getting a push. We were seeing more of him, and then he just disappeared. And maybe there was a personal reason for that. I know there was some rumors about his marriage with Charlotte. Again, those were just rumors as far as I know. Sometimes people have to go away for a reason, but this is something we've seen in AEW with Tony Khan for a while now. There are people who are there and will appear once, and then we won't see him again for weeks. As a viewer, you need to really invest in these people and consistently get them on television and get them involved in stories. You can't just pull them. You know, they can't just vanish. Like I said, some people have a good reason for it. Other people, like Wardlow's another one. Apparently Wardlow, when he had his passport stolen, that was legit many months ago, he wasn't able to make the trip to Canada. They went on this month-long tour of Canada, and he couldn't go. I don't know what his passport status is now. I assume that's why he couldn't go to Wembley either for All In. Well, All In was already a few weeks ago. Where's Wardlow? He's not hurt, as far as I know. He still isn't back yet. I mean, this guy was on top of the world at one point, and now it's like, I almost forget he's even employed. What's the excuse for him? Why has Malachi Black not had a singles match in over a year? Is it because he has a bad back? I thought he was over his bad back. How has he not had a singles match in over a year? That's insane. Sean D, I get the feeling that Roddy might be faking it. You know, I'm starting to think you might be right. What gave you that impression? I think you may be right. Cameron Johnson, have you seen the OVW documentary on Netflix, and are you going to cover it on the podcast? No plans right now. I have not seen it yet. I might try to check out the first episode, but I have not watched it. I did, however, watch the Kurt Angle documentary on Peacock. And if you have not seen it, it is very good. Although if you saw the A&E biography on Kurt last year, that biography was lifted from this documentary. So there are a lot of things in there that you would have already seen, but it's an excellent documentary if you have not watched it. Dylan Hensley. Always look forward to Dylan's wrestling updates here. Last Friday, we had another round of practice matches, but this time we were told our opponents have changed to emulate a wrestler no-show. We had to call everything in the ring. It sucked. You know what, though? That's interesting. That's very smart. I think teaching people how to react on the fly, I think that's an important part of being a pro wrestler, to know how to adjust and adapt when certain situations present themselves. Like, it's no different if you wanted to, let's say, run a drill, and maybe they'll do this too. where if you're in a match and your opponent gets hurt, what do you do? If the match doesn't just instantly get stopped, but you have to go home or you have to wrap it up a lot quicker, what do? Right? It's smart, I think, to teach people, like, put them in situations like that and see how they react and just teach them how to call an audible. Some people can't do it. But I think if you teach that, then they're better prepared for a situation like that. So that's interesting. I think that's actually a very smart thing to do. I'm sure it did suck, but I think you'll be a lot better off for having known how to do it. Matthew Garrett, what are your thoughts on Ari's comment on Vince knowing his time and that he is not CEO and chairman? I did not hear that comment, so I don't know the context. I would need the exact quote. But I think Vince, he knew what he was getting into with this whole relationship with Endeavor. So I'm sure he's fine with it. Paul Carpenter, CM Punk is officially a member of the DWL roster Duffy Wrestling League. Currently going under the name Ricky Rabies. Is that from Heels? On Stars? I know he's on that show. DEH Sires, thoughts on the NXT main event last night if you saw it? I did see it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good match. I'll do more of a review on it on Sunday. And I don't mind what they did, putting the NXT Women's Championship on Becky Lynch, provided that Tiffany Stratton gets her rematch and gets the belt back in pretty short order. I could see her getting the belt back in No Mercy, which is only a couple of weeks away. I don't think it's something that they should be leaning into and relying on going forward too much. Like right now, we have two main roster stars holding NXT titles, Becky Lynch and Dominic Mysterio. Earlier this year, we had the New Day holding the NXT Tag Team titles. I would not make this a recurring thing, but the reason they did it was they wanted to pop some big numbers, which they did. That overrun last night, the NXT overrun, they did 1 million viewers. When was the last time NXT did 1 million anything? That's why they're doing it. So now Becky gets to say that she's a Grand Slam champion, and the match itself I thought was good. I mean, it had a few rocky moments in there. Tiffany Stratton is still, you can see she's still inexperienced, but the progress that she has made from when she came in 2021 to where she is now is incredible. And she's going to be a big star on the main roster when her time comes. She's not ready for that yet. But I enjoyed the match. And obviously they're doing it to get more eyeballs on NXT, and it certainly worked last night if you look at the numbers that they did. Luis with the $10 super chat says, if WWE goes to ABC, better end up on Tuesdays or Thursdays again after Wheel of Fortune. Shout out to everyone that works at Belmont High School. Happy 100th anniversary to all the Sentinels. Sean R. Buy, sell, or rent on the better feel-good moment in WWE. Macho and Liz reuniting at WrestleMania 7. Foley getting The Rock with his own catchphrase on Raw in 2000. Sami Zayn breaking the bloodline with Usi. It's Macho and Liz reuniting at WrestleMania 7. That's one of the all-time great moments in the history of the company. So that's an easy buy. And the other feel-good moment, I gotta go with Sami breaking up the blood. He wasn't just breaking up Jey Uso. He was breaking up everybody in that friggin' ring. They were doing everything they could not to break, and he was doing everything he could to break them. So I would rent on that, and I would sell on the other one. Ed Weber just did some digging into a trademark search. WWE let Edge lapse in 2020. They then trademarked Rated R Superstar instead of re-upping his name. They also do not own his Alter Bridge song. So that is the update there. Thank you, Ed. DEH says Jade lost clean. Oh, I guess that's the spoiler for Friday. Well, there you go. Thanks. There you go. What's next for her? I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know. Dr. Bropio, all right, gang. Sounds like we got a mystery on our hands. Let's split up and find some clues and find these missing. I have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you for the super chat. Naughty Delicious Chicken says, I compare AEW to a fast food restaurant while the current NXT product I compare to a gourmet restaurant. So NXT is a gourmet restaurant. And AEW is a fast food restaurant. I see. Well, that certainly is an opinion. Thank you for that. The goal tonight, we were a ways away from it, and you guys came through. 405 was the goal. We were at 408. You just snuck it in there. Like the Jets winning the other night. Somehow, some way. You pulled it off. All right, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
Didn't think we were going to get it. You guys pulled out the shocker here at the end. So let's go ahead and be the booker. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm still... NXT is the gourmet meal. I think someone has to take Naughty Delicious out for an actual gourmet meal to show him what a gourmet meal is like. Because if you're telling me that NXT is like filet mignon, I got a bridge over here in Brooklyn that I could sell you. All right, be the booker. Here we go. Oh, look who it is. Look who it is, everybody. It's Phil. I have signed Chicago Phil because he is now unemployed. So I have given him a contract. He is now part of our little organization here. I have booked him. He is out of work. He is looking to... He's got to make some money. How's he going to make a living for himself? So we have CM Punk. I believe this is his Be the Booker debut. I have to keep an eye on him, though. I already see out of the corner of my eye, I can see there's some people crowding around him here in the back, and he's getting a little angry. I got to watch him. I got to watch, make sure a monitor doesn't go flying and hit me in the head. CM Punk going to go one-on-one with Big E. Big E against CM Punk. I think it'd be cool just to get Big E back in the ring. So I give that the automatic bell. There you go. CM Punk and Big E. What do you think about that match? Is Ace Steel with him? No. I refused a contract for him. I made it very clear. You either come in alone or you don't come in at all. And no, he is not invited to the scrum later. I told him to just go back to the hotel. I did order some muffins. They'll be waiting for him. Keep him happy. But no, he will not be at the scrum after tonight's edition of Be the Booker. All right, here we go. We got, this will please everybody. Look, it is Nikita Lyons. I don't know who she's sitting on. I can't tell who that is. But there you go. This will, no doubt, this will please everybody here in this chat. Holy shit. It is Nikita Lyons, who I think she's been out for a while. Did she have a torn ACL? I don't even remember the nature of the injury. Look at the response. Ring the bell. You want to ring the bell? I'll ring the bell. There you go. They said ring the bell. I guess it's over. Maga the Stallion. I like that. That's actually pretty funny. All right, here we go. Let's see who she's going to wrestle. It is an ACL? Okay, yeah. She's been out for a while. Matthew Miller says, it should have been me. I like Maga the Stallion, though. That got me. All right, here we go. Nikita Lyons going to take on Luna Vachon. Well, we already gave it the bell before, right? So, got to give it the bell. Nikita Lyons and Luna Vachon. On to the tag teams we go. Kick things off here with the Midnight Express. Beautiful Bobby and Sweet Stan. And then right there in the middle, look at that young chap. How young was he in this photo? Jim Cornette with the Midnight Express. Bobby and Stan. It's going to be hard to fuck this one up. The Midnights are going to take on the Hart Foundation. Oh, I think we just got one of our all-time great picks here and Be the Booker. How fucking great is that? The Hart Foundation against the Midnight Express. I think if you were booking one of those fantasy warfare cards between the two promotions back then, I mean, that's the match you would book, right? That's one of the matches you would look to. Hart Foundation and the Midnights. That's one of the best matches we've ever booked. 3 for 3. Give yourselves a round of applause. You were part of history tonight. 3 for 3 and Be the Booker. We got a few more super chats to get through. Again, this is our last time together live for the rest of this week. What am I going to do without all you guys? Sean Glenn. Roderick Strong's gimmick reminds me a lot of my crazy ex-girlfriend. Adam Cole needs to run far away as fast as he can. Your ex-girlfriend also faked a neck injury and wore a neck brace? Arabian Night. Where is Keith Lee, Wardlow, Roosh, and Bandito? Bandito, I know, had surgery for a broken wrist, although I think he had the pins taken out a few weeks ago, so he should be back any week now. As far as Roosh and Wardlow and Keith Lee's around. He's not doing much, but he is around. Didn't he have a promo on Collision? I think he did a backstage promo on Collision on Saturday. But I don't know. You're looking at me. I got the same questions that you do. I don't know. Dr. Bropio. Punk banned me from recording the Be the Booker records. He still has the power to ban people from Collision. That super chat is still in there. And Wano Campo says, bro, listen, bro. In 1999, I had booked The Rock Strong heading into the fall. Otherwise, he would have lost momentum, bro. It's just wrestling. It's just wrestling, bro. Who cares, bro? Hey, Juan, thank you. Austin, in the chat, I would say, that's a pretty loaded question there. Favorite Bret Hart match of all time? It's hard to narrow it down to just one. But for me, it's probably between the cage match at SummerSlam in 94 and the WrestleMania match with Steve Austin at 13. I might go WrestleMania 13 against Steve Austin. Trill Mexican 305. Hey, Solo, I just wanted to show love to you as I am at work tonight listening to the review. I am sure that BetterHelp is helping folks. But your reviews have been a major help to me. Thank you and good night. Well, that's very nice of you to say that. Trill Mexican, thank you. Listening to the sound off at work is an easy way to pass the time. And yes, I am doing the show on Sunday. I meant live streams. We won't be live again until Monday night. But episode 826 of the Sound Off dropping later on Sunday as it does every single week. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. NXT is cooking steak, rice, potatoes, grilled chicken. AEW is cooking burgers, fries, and fried chicken. Well, I got news for you. most people in this country, they'll take the burgers and the fries and the fried chicken. Not that the other stuff doesn't sound good, but that might sound better. So I don't know. I don't know that that's the flex you think it is. All right. I think we're all caught up now on your messages. I appreciate all the love. Some good questions tonight. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thought it was a solid episode of Dynamite. Good way to get everything hyped up and all lined up for next week's Grand Slam show, which I am very much looking forward to. I think that's going to be a great show. So that'll be next Wednesday. Unlike last year, I will be here after Grand Slam. So that'll be good. And as I said, episode 826 of the Sound Off coming up on Sunday. The reason there will be no SmackDown review on Friday, I will be at the House of Glory show. House of Glory Fallout. We have Vikingo coming back. Matt Cardona will be defending his HOG World Heavyweight title. We got the Vaudevillains reunited for the first time in 6 years. We got a lot, man. We got a lot. All hyped up and ready to go for Friday night. And you can buy your tickets and come to the building, the NYC Arena. If not, it'll be streaming live on Premier Streaming Network. And I'll be back on commentary for, now that I'm no longer kidnapped, I'll be back on commentary for all the, unless I get kidnapped again between now and then, I'll be back on commentary for the entire show. So that'll be good. So be well. Stay, so I got, hey, commissioner duties. What can I say? I'm a man of many hats, which is kind of funny because I don't wear a hat. I feel like I'm one of the few who doesn't. But anyway, yes, I will see you guys back here real soon. Be well, stay safe, and we'll do it all over again next time. Hit that sub button. We're getting close to 75K. Help me get there. Have a good night. I'll see you next time, guys.